Hey, Club Festers! Jeremiah here with another Clubcast. I'm here with Cassaundra Symth.
Woo, what's up, guys?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk to you, Cassaundra, because you have had a background in the flow arts before you ever really discovered juggling. And so you come from a unique perspective on the juggling community in general, and also in the learning styles from clubs or from other props to clubs. And I can relate to that. I too was introduced to juggling and flow arts pretty much simultaneously. And I would say one of the biggest influences on my club juggling in particular was poi spinning. And so I'm curious to get somebody else's perspective on that front. But before we dive into it, I also just want to say Cassaundra has been part of the juggling, object manipulation, and flow scene for many years now. I found videos going back 7 years on YouTube on your channel, but I can imagine it goes further than that.
Yeah.
And she's also responsible for a lot of the cool graphics that we've had here as part of Club Fest. So if you need any graphic design, you might reach out to Cassaundra. She's also been part of the FireDrums organizing team and Universal Flow Gathering. I don't even know, maybe some other events that I didn't even pick up on. So how you doing, Cassaundra? I know life's been a little crazy. You're down in Oakland at the Vulcan. Has life changed significantly for you since things went haywire?
I can't say that it's changed too much, but I have been home, just like, everyone stays home. So I do have a training space at home that I do use every day. So it's been very helpful. It's something I'm grateful for. Some people just don't have that. And, winter was going on maybe some places. So, and I live with a bunch of circus people, so it's been good. We've been hanging out and cooking dinner, and I've been working on, like I said, lots of graphics, taking on more work for that and spending more time juggling. And I've been super into my air wheel. I know you do the electric unicycle too, but there's a big alley in the back alley, and I'm out there. I've been spending like 3 hours a day on my wheel. I'm a little,
wow.
Yeah, I've been 1 foot, trying to work on new tricks and stuff. So
Awesome.
It's getting out of the house. I'm like, I can only spend so much time inside, so practice. So yeah, it's been good. I enjoy being home. I have enough things to keep me busy.
Yeah, I've been to the Vulcan quite a few times, and I know you've got a good little community there. You've got space that just about any juggler would be jealous of. And man, I gotta say, I have not been on my wheel much at all since all this hit. I've been hiding in the mountains, so a little jealous of your wheel time. That was a fun addition to the flow arts and juggling community that took us all by storm.
Yeah, a lot of people are super into the wheels right now. It's everyone's getting them. It's crazy.
I imagine your unit in particular has a whole parking lot full of them, right?
We have 5 downstairs. We don't have a rack yet, but we have a spot for them. But there's some older ones. I think there's some demolished ones. So there's probably 6, I think. But yeah, 3 of us ride wheels. So and I live with Brian, so club wheel guy. So.
And where you're at in the Bay, it can be a substitute for a car in just about every way.
Oh yeah, I have a car, but today I went and mailed out some contact poi. I casually sell contact poi. I went to the post office on my wheel and mailed them out. Didn't need to drive there, so it was nice.
Right, nice. So let's dive into some of your history. Like I said, I found videos from 7 years ago, but how long have you actually been in the object manipulation scene?
I started in 2009. I think that very first video that was on my YouTube, I actually filmed 2 years earlier. That was my first one. It was 7 years ago, but I didn't have a YouTube channel, so I uploaded, I was like, oh, I have this video. But I started in 2009. I had a group of friends that I'm from New Mexico, and that's where I saw fire spinning for the first time. And in SoCal, there's a big desert party community for and then there's also that in New Mexico. So there was 6 guys that were just super into spinning, and I would go watch them and hang out with them. And they're my first inspirations to pick up the prop. But
Yeah. So was there a specific aha moment for you? Like, whoa, I got to get my hands on that, or was
Yes.
it sort of a gradual process for you?
So I would always watch them, and they were really bad at fire safety, honestly. So sometimes it was fire, and I would be
Hindsight is 2020, right?
yeah, but they used to try and teach me things, and in the moment in front of them, I was a little intimidated because they were so good, and I would be like, but then like one day I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna learn it. So I like went home and I started spinning, practicing by myself before I even showed any of them, and then I went and showed. I was like, hey, I learned these things, and they're like, finally, you want to learn? They're like, we're gonna teach you everything, and then they taught me everything that they knew in like 3 months. But this was 2009, so I was like, I remember that was when like atomic weaves were like the coolest thing, and half beat weaves were still like, oh, the shit. So it was like,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Being able to do the behind the back weave was still a barrier to entry.
totally. It was like, you behind the back weave, you were cool. So so that was my introduction to it. And, yeah.
So as we can see in the background, that you've got tons of different props.
Yes, this is my bedroom. I sleep with my stabs and my hoops, and this isn't even, those are just some of my poi, but most of my clubs, and then I have my vision clubs and my room's pretty much just, I just have clothes and props.
Clothes and props, say that'll do the trick. I wasn't sure if maybe I was looking at the house's collection of props, or your personal. Yeah, pretty much every room looks like that, right?
Yeah, pretty much anyone that's super into it. Yeah, no, I don't leave my personal props. It's weird because I just like to have, even when I go downstairs and juggle, I bring my like props back up to my room. I like to, I don't know, have them. We don't have that many people over that are just like, but those are like, when we have a bunch of props downstairs, those are like community props, like if we bring someone over, they can use them. Yeah.
So how long was it after you started spinning some poi that you started dabbling in other props? Was it right away, or?
I picked up poi, and then I had some friends. Okay, so there's this event in New Mexico. It's called Zobra, which is actually where Burning Man was inspired by. It's like a giant 50-foot man that they burn, that they have fire dancers in front of. And a friend that I was inspired to spin poi, he also did double staves. So that was the second thing that I picked up. And I was learning like basic double staff tech. I saw fan and hoop. I started picking up hoops when I realized I could do anti-spins with them, and I would do a small hoop phase, but yeah, and then fans, and I play with all kinds of props. But I would say double stabs was my second prop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just pointed out one of the things I love about the prop crossover, especially in the flow arts, which is part of where clubs is really exciting, because as you just pointed out, right, you can do an anti-spin with a hoop, with a poi, with double stabs, and with clubs. You try and do it with some of the other props, some of the other juggling props. Like, I'm not going to pull out anything with cigar boxes.
That's exactly what came to mind.
Anti-spin, that's going to be that interesting. I don't want to say for sure, but
yeah.
And so clubs has provided a really unique crossover point between the two communities that is really compelling. So when did you start to explore clubs, and when did you start seeing that kind of crossover there?
So I would say I was around clubs for a while. I see a lot of numbers juggling. When I was kind of starting to learn how to juggle 3 objects, I would try and juggle clubs. Like I was very much like still like I learned how to juggle with poi, and everyone would be like, "Why are you doing that?" Like,
you know, that's harder, right?
It's way harder, and they were like, "Whoa!" And I was like, "No, I want to learn how to juggle poi." But I would dabble with clubs here and there, and it wasn't until probably about 3 years ago I actually felt connected with clubs. Like I've been probably juggling clubs for like 5 years, like on and off. But like I didn't feel like I could pick them up, and like it took me 2 years of like practicing them here and there before I could pick up the prop and just like do stuff and like not have to like think about it or like overthink what I'm doing, and I could like, you know, do different patterns and stuff like that. But Yeah, I've been juggling clubs for 5 years, and I would say after the last 3 years have been like more of a connection with the props. So
Nice.
Inspired with it.
How long ago did you actually said you learned to juggle with Poi?
I did, yeah.
Not even like didn't go grab the balls for a little while and.
I guess that's I guess I can say that I learned how to cascade 3 balls.
Okay.
I flashed, or I qualified. I qualified 3 balls, and then I was like, okay, now I'm gonna. And I was trying
like
to do
done with these.
Yeah, done with it. I'm gonna get and I lived with a bunch of aerialists at the time too, and like they would watch me. Like I would spend like hours just trying to get like sloppily getting 10 catches in the backyard, and they're just looking at me like. And I'm like, I swear people do this. I'm not kidding. I swear I've seen this. I've seen people do this. I'm not crazy trying to make this happen right now. Like,
right. That's so funny. Jugglers have had it a little tricky amidst when kind of paired with other types of circus arts in some ways. It's like, all right, here we are. We're hanging upside down from silks and trapezes, and you're like in the corner just barely trying to catch a few objects. Like, how's this gonna fit in the show?
Yeah, I could see that. The aerial silks and all that have like the big wow of like, oh, it's so big and so tall, you know? And it's like, just like dropping things everywhere.
So did you have a few early inspirations for juggling in particular? Maybe even since you started with Poi juggling, or you were on the forefront of a lot of Poi juggling too, if I recall.
I guess so, yeah. Willow was the first person I saw juggling Poi in person, and like I was just, yeah, I saw him juggling Poi, and I was like, it wasn't until like I was like, yeah, like a couple of years ago I did Poi Filament, and we're giving like a history talk, and he was like, and I was like, he didn't even know that. I was like, you were my inspiration. Like, you never really know how you inspire people. I was like, I saw you juggling Poi, and I was like, I got to do that. I was like, people are juggling Poi. I was like, that's a thing. Like, I didn't really see much of it on the internet. So at the time I was like, just like mind blown. I was like, oh, I could do that. So I would say that was my first inspiration, or he was.
I remember that period of time when suddenly all of these flow props started getting juggled.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is all kind of part of the same thing. Like, all of these things can be juggled well, and they all have their own unique style and flow.
Really?
Yeah, it was an exciting moment in time when you started seeing the communities collide in a way that was just because of what they were doing. They were colliding.
Totally.
They weren't necessarily going to the same events yet.
Yeah, it's been a big mush together, and it's really interesting to see. And now that I've been spending a lot of time juggling stabs and stuff, I get such an inspiration. Like, club juggling's been around for so long. You know, it's like people are doing all these crazy tricks like so long ago, but it's such a baby to the flow arts community. So like sometimes I'll come up with something, and then and I'll show it to people, and I'm like, oh, I just ripped that off from the club juggling. I saw, like, yeah, most of my Poi juggling is just club juggling with a floppy prop. So
right, yeah. And man, the influence that Poi has had on the club juggling world overall is pretty staggering. It's hard to even say if it came from Poi specifically. I know for certain people it did. For myself, it was a major influence. But there's something about the Poi in particular. I mean, something as if I don't know what it is. The fact that you have to understand the physics of how the prop hits your hand and carries through its own momentum can be translated to Poi. Most club jugglers from the past didn't tune into that a whole lot intentionally, and now with some of the new styles, when people refer to flow juggling, usually they're referring to juggling that's been inspired from Poi spinning and that transfer of momentum, that carry through.
Totally.
Well, the whole Seb's Mess world is so reliant on understanding that transition of momentum and the physics involved.
And there's so many patterns that, old patterns and new patterns, but just adding sometimes just like a simple spin or like an elegant movement that's come from like a lot of flow arts influence to really make it just like.
Yeah. Are there any other things that you think of when it comes to the crossover between the two communities, or the two prop styles in particular, that poi spinners can learn from picking up juggling, or the other way around?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk specifically with like club juggling versus like poi juggling, I mean, there's something that's the patterns all work. It's kind of a little bit more difficult with poi, just like with the static, you can't like catch it, so you have to make up for those, like you have to add something in there to get that like another active two somewhere just to like get the momentum. So it's like kind of like a weird combination. But I would just say that, yeah, I don't know. There's just like a lot of at first I was thinking you were going to talk about community a little bit more. The communities are a little bit different, I would say. That's interesting to see. A lot of people that are heavy numbers style are just like don't like manipulations, or just kind of like whoa. But then picking up the different props, like flow props, I've taught some jugglers that are just not super into it, like just doing some poi spinning, and they're like, oh, okay, I get a little bit more. But I don't know if I could say. I think that's about styles.
Yeah, or the communities, like different ways that the communities. I know the juggling community tends to be, or the more traditional juggling community tends to be like in the gym, ready to train their numbers, how many, how high, how fast, and then on the other side of the gym, you've got the flow artists who are got their headphones in and just trying to find a little flow.
Totally.
And there's value to both, certainly. And I mean, I think it's to be really well rounded. I think you want to have a little of both in your life. I know that's where I get a ton of the inspiration for my juggling, is by getting into a good flow.
Totally.
But then you got to train it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and it's like, especially now that there's a lot of events where it's like MOPS was a good one that was like in the States, had a big gym, like you can train all day, and had a fire circle, and it's like, it's good to have both. I mean, some people don't want to spin fire at all, but there's a lot of flow artists that are like super into like fire circle, it's like FireDrums, it's like fire circle, and then you go to a juggling convention, it's like training. But yeah, it's good to have a balance of both. I feel like, I don't know, if you know how to practice, then you can really do well in the fire circle. But
yeah, that was a big shift when we started seeing events like MOPS pop up that really catered to both communities, and I think that really allowed it to coalesce in a new way.
Totally.
Yeah. And
EJC's like that too, but I mean, like, yeah, it has like a lot of, they have the bar tent, like training all day if you want. They got a fire circle. With the flow arts community though, it's like their focus is on the fire circle. It's like a flow festival versus like a juggling convention. It's still they'll have a fire circle, but it's still like the gym, which is something like, a lot of people that are super into object manipulation, it's like, yeah, fire is cool, but it's like, but look at that beautiful thing that guy's over there just like jamming out in the corner of the gym. Like, we didn't really want to take away the appreciation of how beautiful it is. That it doesn't have to be on fire,
Totally.
Yeah. But
you've done EJC quite a bit, huh?
Just twice.
Yeah. 2 more times than I have.
It's fun. I was planning on going to Finland this year, but
Right.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, we all got a forced vacation. A forced vacation from our vacations. Do you have any fun stories from EJC that come to mind?
I was thinking about the other it was like 2 years ago when I was like I was thinking about like community, like all these communities together, and like, you know, you'd watch videos from people all over the world, and you're like, oh, I know that person from this video, and you'd never met her or anything like that. But I remember at EJC 2 years ago, I was like trying to get to the event, and I ended up at this bus station, and I could not read the signs, and it was my first time in Europe too, so I was like, didn't realize you just can download an app that you can just like I missed that, and I was like trying to talk to people, and I was just like, and I was holding my poi, and then somebody came up to me, and they were like, oh, yeah, I've seen your videos online. You're trying to go to EJC, and I was like 5 hours away from the venue. I was like, yes, I'm stuck. I don't know where my bus is. And he's, oh yeah. I was like, I'm looking for which bus I'm gonna get on. We can get on a bus and go together. And I was like, oh, okay. It's helpful.
That's awesome. So you travel halfway around the world, trying to figure out where the heck you're supposed to go, and somebody recognizes you from the internet.
Yeah.
Watched your videos. That's great.
Totally. It's really helpful.
Yeah, no kidding. And so you've achieved a really high level of skill with what you do. In particular, you're known for your poi spinning. But a lot of these training and practice techniques that we work with every day as we're learning new stuff can be carried over to all kinds of different props. Do you have any training or practice techniques that you've learned that you use when you approach a new trick or a new skill that's required?
I mean, I've taught a lot of workshops, and I tell people this when I'm teaching to them, and I'm just like, the first step to learning something is understanding it. And so I do try and break things down to see like the function of it. And when I was first starting to like actually get into like hardcore practice sessions where I'd spend hours, I would just kind of willy-nilly try something instead of just like actually trying to understand why it's working the way it is to get the trick right, so I'm not drilling bad muscle memory. When I first started, like I said, I started juggling with poi, I had terrible form, and I would run around trying to catch my catches. It's like I would be, and then I'm like grabbing out here, and so I tell people, I'm like if you're having to run for your catch, it was wrong, the toss was wrong, that means that you should let it fall instead of like, because you're training bad muscle memory. And I still teach many poi juggling classes, and that's like the first thing I say. And I'm just like, keep your hands at your sides, think about proper form. And I still think about that too when I'm learning a new thing. I'm like, okay, what is going on here? Like, why is this trick going to work the way it is? Like, kind of break it down a little. And I can tell that it's helped my ability to learn new things faster versus spending hours and realizing that I'm not progressing. I also do I guess I've heard like Matt Hall and like Wes Peden have even said, like, you just like I don't drill one trick for like hours. Like I do one, like I blow through a bunch of different tricks, but I try it about like 10 times. I don't spend like an hour drilling the same thing, because I don't know if anyone's like noticed, or you're like start practicing and it's like kind of you're like warm up, and then you're like get to that good groove time and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, everything's landing pretty solid, and then it kind of just like falls apart, and it's like spending too much time on one thing can do that. And it was interesting hearing Wes Peden say that that's how he practices too. I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. So now I have usually 3 different props that I'll practice a day, and I don't try and spend too much time on like focusing on one trick. I try and just like run through everything that I'm trying to work on. And sometimes I do get a little bit obsessive, but I try not to not run into that problem where I'm just like wasting my time.
Yeah. Right. And I know the feeling. Do you find yourself doing a lot of 1 and 2 prop drills to build up some of these bigger patterns?
I do I have been working on some 4 things, like 4 stabs, 4 poi here and there, but like I do like a lot of 3 still, and I'll do the 3 to 2 to 1 drop. So it's like I juggle 3 then I drop one, then I'll spin two and do, whatever and then I drop, and then I'm down with one, and I
Just keep the flow going.
keep it going, and then all three on the ground, and then pick them back up and start all over again.
Yeah. So I guess in particular, I was thinking of, like, say you're trying to learn a challenging new three.
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
And in the process of trying to understand what's going on, you break it down to the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
To help better understand that.
Yeah. Now I know what you're talking about. Now, like everyday practice. I mean, like, yeah, you're like breaking down a new pattern. Yeah. Work with two. I do one drills all the time. Yeah. For that, like new toss in my juggling pattern or in the head. I've been working on like just while playing, or no beats, but while playing with poi juggling, and then doing a toss behind my head, and then keep going that one. So that with poi juggling, so it's like sit there and do this back and forth, just to
just that one.
Just that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely all the time.
Yeah, it's in the process of exploring, it's easy to go from 3 to just like try this new trick, and then I keep trying this new trick, and I should probably take 10 minutes and just nail it down to 1 and 2, figure out exactly what's going on with those. Yeah. And so we've talked a lot about different props at this point. How about some of the events that you like to frequent? We went through EJC. I know you've been a part of FireDrums for a long time. What are some of your favorite events, and why do you like going to those of all things?
So I would say, yeah, definitely FireDrums has had the best fire circle that I've been in. So
can't argue with that. It's in the name.
Yeah, that's right. Packfire is my favorite by far. It's just the location is just amazing. I always joke, like, I love going to flow festivals and stuff. I'm like, if I ever stop going to flow festivals, I'll definitely just go to Packfire.
Right. Yeah. If there's one you could live at all year, right there on the beach and the trees.
Beautiful. I always end up going out and doing like at least a couple days during the day. I just go out into the parts of the beach where there's no one, do weird dancing. I'm just like, and yeah, I love it. The people there are great. The lodge is nice, and that it has everything. So it has an awesome fire circle on the beach, this really nice inside juggling space, like it's just on this, it's beautiful. So I mean, you go to some events where it's like, oh, the fire circle is good, but then there's like during the day I like to juggle inside, and I'm like I pick up most of my drops with my toes, which is like a weird habit. So
not that weird.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because kick-ups with clubs is like a nice, like you do it with a shoe on. Doing a kick-up with the poi with the shoe on is kind of, I mean, you can, but I don't know. I like juggling with no shoes on, but I don't know. But yeah, Packfire for sure is my favorite.
Yeah, nice. So when you're at home, like now, for example, do you have any kind of schedule that you have with your practice? Like, do you make sure to get X number of hours in every day, or have goals that you set? Do you have any training techniques along those lines, goal setting style?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've actually, now that I've been home more, I've been working out, which was really nice that I didn't really make time for. So usually I wake up in the morning, my daily, I stretch, and I usually juggle for like probably about, I would say about 45 minutes. I don't want to over exaggerate how long I practice, but 45 minutes, and I'll get like a warm-up session, and then I do design work. So it's like that's like my days. It's just like computer practice, back and forth. But so then I'll have like a warm-up session, and it usually will be like warming. It's funny because you'll be like nailing things, and I go to bed, and the next day I just gotta like get back to that. I have to warm up, and then I'll work on the computer, usually about an hour or two. Lately I've been in the morning going out and writing my will and working on some 1 foot stuff. So I've been really trying to work on 1 foot backwards right now. So that's like,
nice.
Yeah, it's coming along. So now I've been writing my will, and then I'll just juggle a little bit more, or recently been working out. But I usually, I work on the computer probably about 3 hours a day, if not more, sometimes 4 hours. And then I've been working out for, we just got an elliptical machine.
Oh, cool.
So I can...
You're not going to go jogging through those streets in Oakland.
Oh, no, I don't want to. And one of my, one of my roommates, we've been working out, and I do the elliptical machine. But so I've been working out for an hour, working on the computer for about 3-4 hours, and then I probably practice at least 2 hours a day if I'm really But and people that live with me, they're like, "Yep, I do practice for at least 2 hours a day. I'll usually at least have 2 sessions." And sometimes it gets to the point where I practice every day, and then after like 2 weeks, or I'll be like, I need to take a day off, and then and now I've been getting super obsessed with the wheels. So sometimes I'm just like, all of a sudden I'm just spending I've been.
The best kind of practice is when you don't realize how much time you're putting into it, right?
Oh, totally, yeah. And I've gone up and down ever since I've started spinning. Almost 10 years ago. I've definitely, I think the longest I've never really stopped. When I was in college, where I have my second degree, I would probably only spin once a week, but I never really most of the time it's usually every day. So.
Right. So your second degree, you're a well-educated woman.
So
the juggling and the flow arts is really just a pastime for you. You just get to enjoy messing around with it.
I don't know. I've always, I've never really gotten, there's a lot of people with different backgrounds where it's their passion is to perform and perform for people. I right now really enjoy there being no pressure on my practice, which is I don't have to do it for anyone. I'm doing it for myself. So it's I know so many people that are hardcore into shows and this and that, and
get the gigs,
and then they don't have as much time to work on new skills or new tricks that they want to, because maybe they're not directed towards what the normal public would like. And I like to work on whatever I want. So I have a fine arts degree, and then I have a media design degree, and I used to do corporate branding for a while, closer to LA, and then I just started freelancing.
Awesome.
I didn't want to work for design firms anymore because I just wouldn't be able to go to events. It would be that's my job. Even instructors I had in college were if you want to have a life, you should do freelancing.
Hey, that's great. Good choice, huh?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that's more of my job versus juggling. I don't consider a work for me. I consider it just a personal practice, which is really zenning. I guess or that's all over my social media. If it's meditative practice, or it's prop manipulation is a form of meditation for me. So it's very and it's gratifying feeling once you're I've worked really hard for something and you can do it, and it's whoa.
When you provide a lot of inspiration for people out there too, just because when I'm trying to choose what to practice, it is so driven by how well it's going to be useful in my show.
Yeah.
Right. And most of the time that's okay, because I tend to be attracted to a lot of the stuff that I think will work well. But there are a lot of things like poi juggling, for example, that I feel I'm not going to get the return on investment for my show.
Totally.
And so it causes me not to practice it. And so is that how you choose what to practice on? You really just whatever sounds fun?
I choose to practice what I want to practice, and I really enjoy especially with poi juggling, because right now I've been super into staff juggling too, where it's seeing something that hasn't been done with those props yet, where it's there's a few patterns, especially with poi juggling, where I'm I haven't seen this done yet.
Right.
I want to be able to do it because I haven't seen, and that's another reason why I was club juggling has been like, for me to push club juggling, I'm like, oh, I'm so far behind. You know what I mean? It just makes me feel more like there's so much room for so many new things and potential with these other props that haven't been juggled so much. So that's kind of where my drive comes from. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this done yet with this prop.
Right.
I'm going to work on it.
Pushing the edges, pushing the boundaries of the prop.
Totally. So I could say, yeah, it is what's fun, but to me, it's like more interesting. Weird things that I haven't, that most general public would know, like look at and be like.
Well, when I watch you spin, it's like my eyes go wide, and I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what people enjoy watching. So. Well,
I mean, like for like a normal like circus gig, you know what I mean, versus like like we'll be like, oh, I'm gonna put you need a poi juggler, I got you. There's so many, maybe too many out there. So, but that's not the focus of my just for that.
Boy, that'll be the day, huh? When gigs are requesting specifically poi jugglers.
Oh man,
We'll have done something right at that point.
A lot of people still don't even know what poi is, so it's like
And you have a poi spinning style too, and poi spinning juggling style that tends to be really specific to the shape of the prop. Like if I handed you stick poi instead, like all of a sudden a big part of your repertoire is cut out because you don't have the rolls. Yeah,
totally. That's why I was like, I mean, I could juggle them and they'd be similar to like a club. But yeah, I do heavy, I have heavy contact poi style. So like I got into pattern spinning, but then I just like the manipulations have been really like where I like get super into it. And yeah, contact rolls all over. So yeah. That'd be harder. There was this guy that me and Marvin actually called him. He was like the guy of EJC a couple of years ago, and it was like ball on stick guy. And he was just like, it has just like a stick, and it was like a poi. It was like a stiff poi, and he was doing all, like Oni was doing some of the stuff with the plungers, the plunger poi. But yeah, but it was like a stiff poi. And
plunger poi.
Huh?
Plunger poi. I haven't seen that.
No, that doesn't sound. The knob on a plunger. Why?
That's funny. Always pushing the edge.
Yeah, totally.
Well, let's see here. I've got a series of a few rapid fire questions. Ready for a few rapid fire?
Sure.
All right. Is there a current club trick that you are working on?
I am trying to get better at 4 clubs right now.
Nice.
Like have more of a solid, just being able to hold a pattern of different patterns. Like that's what I'm trying to, and I've been trying to, something that I was newer in and I don't have a lot of patience for because coming from poi spinning is balances. So it's like I didn't really do a lot of balances for years. So like being able to just balance a club on my face, which is super beginner for a lot of club jugglers. It's like, I mean, from floppy prop world, there wasn't a whole lot of balances. So yeah, just 4-2-3s with balances and like volunteer, like just trying to work on those. And
yeah, I love it. You're taking the things that are particularly unique about a club.
Yeah.
Into that.
Totally.
Yeah. Right. Not going to balance with the poi. Not really.
No, I mean, you could do like a cradle, hold it there, and I was like, I guess it's a balance. Right. But you put the poi on your head like that, and I'm like, I guess it's a balance, but it's like kind of
not quite the same.
No.
Yeah. So you spin a lot of poi, a lot of double staff, and you're juggling clubs a lot. What's your current favorite? I know it changes a lot as we practice, right?
Yeah. I have been 50, most of my practices honestly have 50-50 been staff juggling and poi. Just because I will run through, like I said, I don't like try and like grind the same thing over and over. So like I will spend, like 30 minutes listening to some music, trying to run through newer patterns that I've been doing with like stabs. And then I like to I usually practice 3 props a day, but on more, at least 2. I can't, yeah. If not, I just feel like I'm just beating a dead horse in some weird way. Like once I get to a certain point after like an hour, I'm like, okay, well. So stabs, a lot of staff juggling. I've been, and it's similar to clubs in some weird way, but I feel like a lot of the contact stuff, it's just like almost easier. Shh, don't say I said that. It's like an easy, like, it's a little bit heavier than a club, but like a lot of the rolls, like some of the like, it's like slower. So,
yeah.
So I would
body rolls in particular.
Yeah. So I've been working on a lot of like, 3 staff contact stuff, patterns and things like that.
Right. Once again, moving in the direction of the things that make a staff unique from the other props.
Totally.
Like
yeah.
You're not just going and doing the same thing that you spin. You're not like doing the same exact patterns with poi and staff. You're digging into the parts of the props that are really define those props.
Definitely. But I do definitely try, and every pattern, like actual juggling pattern that I learn, I try and learn it with poi, stabs, and clubs.
Nice.
So yeah, like definitely there's like certain patterns where I'm like, okay, well I can do it with this prop. I need to be able to, yeah. So I'm pretty much on the same, honestly, I'm on the same level of juggling with, at this point, I would say with all 3 of those props.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things I think that I really want to kind of flag is that it's the inspiration that can be gained from watching a staff spinner do something unique and realize that, oh, that can be done. Like there's no reason that I couldn't do that with clubs. It's just a little further past the what you might have thought of when you're juggling clubs. And staff and poi can be a really unique inspiration for club juggling and vice versa.
Totally, definitely. And like clubs are lighter, or like usually a little bit lighter, but then they're the off balanceness for some things, and like stabs have a very, like they're long, so they have like a very slower, like you feel like you have more time.
Yeah.
Like doing like certain patterns with a club, it feels faster.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of crossover, and stabs is just like poi juggling. It's like such a new thing that it's like they're just like stealing everything from clubs at this point. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, one of those tricks that comes to mind with the stabs crossing over to clubs in particular is I don't even know what it's called, just like the cascade down the chest, where you put it on and roll it down your chest. With stabs, it's so slow. With clubs, it totally works. You just like, you're hustling to make it happen.
Totally. Well, I can hold both of those patterns with clubs and stabs, but with stabs you have to like kind of, I guess you don't really need to like rock, but with clubs you got to like just stand still.
Right.
Like, you're not rocking back and forth, but I guess you can do it either way. But with stabs, it's just so much more time. It's like
right. It's a really useful training tool almost for learning that trick with clubs anyway.
Totally. Some of the patterns I've been recently learning with staff juggling, I'm trying to learn with clubs now, and it's just takes a little bit more time.
I realized this happens every interview. I'm not very good at rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about the object manipulation communities? The various object manipulation communities. Let's start with favorite thing about the flow arts community.
Favorite thing about the flow arts community, I would say how accepting and welcoming people are. I feel like, and I've been like that too since I was like younger, or ever since I started spinning, where it was like that was like how I met people. Like I moved to California, I didn't know anyone. I left all my friends. My closest friends were all spinners and like desert party people, raver kids. And then I moved to California, didn't know anyone, and I met people that were spinning poi and props, and I'm like, oh, automatically we're friends. It's like, and that's how the flow arts community usually is. Like, not everyone all the time. It's like not as many like after like 15 years, they're probably not as accepting as like newer spinners that are like within 4 years of just starting. They're like, oh, we're automatically together now. And
yeah, there's definitely a camaraderie that comes from spending the time working with these tools.
Totally.
Focused on something. Like we immediately have something we can talk about and share and relate to.
Totally.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's really special about the community.
It really is. And then when you said like what do I enjoy the most about the community, it's just that it is a community, you know, the family. So it's really nice to see that and be a part of it. And I've never knew what community or really understood community until I found this community.
Right. Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite event that you've attended in the last 6 months? Okay, let's say 9 months, since we haven't done anything for the last 3.
I mean, so I went to EJC last year, and I went to Phoenix Fire Festival afterwards, which I wouldn't know if I would say it was my favorite, but I was one of like 3 Americans that I knew of there out of like the 1,500 people there. So I was like, so it was nice to get to know people. Like when I was at EJC, a bunch of like the Vulcan people were there. And so I was like hanging out with too many people that I knew really well. So I was more forced to like get to know newer people that I had met in Europe. So that was, I would say, it was exciting to get to know people all over again. Because in the States, I go to our new people again. I go to all the same events, and people will be like, oh, you should come to this flow festival. And I'm like, oh, this is a new one that I hadn't been to that just started. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with all the same people I see at all the other ones that I go to. And I remember how excited I was when I first found flow festivals, and I was like, oh, I get to meet all these new people. And like, I went to different parts of the States, and I was just like, oh, I'm meeting all these new people. And then now it was cool. It's cool to go to an event on overseas, and it's just like, oh, I had that feeling all over again from when I like first started going to flow arts events, and where it's like, oh, I get to meet all these new people. It's exciting.
Where is that event?
It's in Germany.
Ah.
Yeah, it's like their fire festival.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's been going on. I was like there asking a million questions about just like the event, and like there, you know, that's like the fire festival. All the countries go to get together, and they have like different like clans and stuff where like different, I don't know, it's and different countries like, and all these countries come together and build this event, and then they have the burning of the Phoenix. It's the same weekend as Burning Man. So, yeah.
For all the people who aren't going to make the journey.
Yeah, totally. I think just putting myself in like a situation with all these new people that I got to connect with was exciting for me.
Okay, so if I gave you a free level up token, and you could learn, and you could all of a sudden have any club trick in the bag, what club trick would it be?
I'm going to say the most basic thing ever. And that it's like you're not really considered a juggler until you can do 5 club. But I am so focused on still trying to make simple things that are like not as grand of numbers, but look pretty. So I'm like, I do a lot of movement things and stuff, but I don't know, maybe in like, I don't know if I'll ever, I don't know if I have the motivation to grind five clubs. Maybe in a few years, maybe. But if someone was just like, you could have 5 club down.
Here's your free 5 club token.
Totally, I would be like, sure.
Yeah, I'll take it. Nice.
I'll take it because then I don't have to learn it. I don't have to put those hours, maybe. But
well, you said you're already on the 4 train.
I am.
Once you've trained at 4, you realize that there's a formula for learning numbers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I like I said, I try and keep. When it comes to like my main 3 props, like hoops are there, but I don't really like it. I wouldn't consider it one of my main props. But like salves, poi, and clubs, they're all straight. They all need a rotation. But I'm at the same level with all of them, so it's like I'm working on 4 with every single one. But maybe one day. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I haven't been posting. I don't post as much as I used to, and some people will bring that up. I've been trying to go for quality instead of quantity, and like wanting to put out videos that later on I go back and watch, and I'm like, wow, I'm very proud of that. Not just like, oh, that was mediocre filming, or like, you know, just so. But I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So, you know,
cool.
maybe I'll get to that 5 club where I'm like there, you know.
Yeah. That is an interesting predicament we find ourselves in, because I too like really prefer to put out less quality material, but in our lack of attention economy, it's like you can put that video out, it's going to get the same amount of views as a like slap together one that you put out every day.
Totally. Yeah, it's really true.
I guess it really depends on what the goal is. If you're just doing it for fun anyway, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to build that following as a professional performer.
Totally.
You can do it whenever you want.
That's honestly where I've been at, and people have been like, hey, oh, you haven't been posting as much, and I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't make money at it. Like I don't make any money for my content, so it's a donation of my time to, you know, I film stuff and put it out there for me and for other people, but like other things that I do, I make money at. So it's like, I mean, I already juggle for myself, and then filming's a whole other thing, but yeah.
Well, Cass, it's been really great chatting with you, and thank you so much for all your help with Clubfest and making us these awesome graphics. You can find Cassaundra as Madtech Manipulations online. She's got a bunch of great poi juggling videos on her YouTube. She does have an Instagram as well by the same name, and Facebook. We'll have all these in the links of this video, so you'll be able to track her down. Did I miss anything?
No, that's about it. But going back to the filming thing, something like the video that you showed at the beginning with the whole, you know, like, oh, somebody's not online that day, and then you posted the best content that you had filmed and they missed it. But I've been doing like blog filming, and then like instead of just putting out in one video all these clips of a blog, I've just been filming the blog and then putting out the clips every few weeks. So that's what I've done the last couple of years. So I'll probably do another one this year with some of the newer poi juggling stuff I've been working on, or just poi stuff. So I've been doing less of like, oh, I'm going to go out and film today, which takes up a lot of my day, where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go film. I can set up, I can go home and edit it. That's like, you know, 5 clips. It's 5 times of filming instead of just like I film the whole thing and then just edit it and send it out. And so somebody, if they weren't online that day, they missed that clip, but then they see this other one, and I'll be like, oh, it's 1 of 7, and they're like, oh, there's more to watch, and then they can go back and look through it. So,
yeah.
It's in my new jam.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Cass.
Yeah, of course.
Really fun. Everybody tune in to Clubfest.